Welcome to Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. I'm going to be interviewing Philip Fuentes today. He is Ariel's husband. He was not an ex-member of the House of Yahweh, just to make that clear, but he's going to share with us what it's like being married to somebody or being in a relationship with somebody who was in a cult. And we're kind of doing this for two different reasons. It's number one, to help those who are potentially in a relationship with somebody who's come out of a cult, and also to kind of help everyone get to know Ariel and I a little bit better, because it gives a little bit more insight into our lives and where we're coming from, and why we're doing what we're doing. It all kind of is connected. And but you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. Please invite anyone you know to that you think would enjoy our Facebook page to join, and please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Philip, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there. We're remodeling, so it's been a trick. Everything seems to go wrong.
I'm sorry.
No problem. So we are here to talk about the difficulties that you've faced, or even some of the things that you've learned in being in a relationship with Ariel, and in general with somebody who's been in a cult. And I'm going to start by asking you, when did you and Ariel meet?
It was May of 1999. I took over the Pizza Hut on North First Street as a general manager, and that's where I met her.
Very good. And when did you find out that she was a member of the House of Yahweh? Because she was still a member at that time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That took a little bit longer. I guess I should have figured it out when I saw the last name Hawkins.
Right.
But when writing the schedules, I usually just use first names. I didn't really pay much attention to that. So it probably took about 2 months before I figured that out.
Wow, that's a while.
And figured it out just because that day she just happened to ask me to make her employee meal, and had to use cheddar cheese instead of regular cheese, and that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, okay.
And is that because there were other people there that worked there that were in the House of Yahweh? That was the...
Mostly it was the customers. First Pizza Hut I'd worked at was over on Ambler, across the street from ACU, Abilene Christian University.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of customers that came in from the House of Yahweh, because I think it was the closest hut to Clyde. And that's where I first learned about you got to have the board clean, and you got to have the blade clean, and you only use cheddar cheese, and vegetables were about the one thing that they would put on their pizzas.
And how long had she been in the House of Yahweh at that time?
I want to say, 8, 9 years? Like that.
Okay. And so before that, she seemed, I'm going to say, quote unquote, normal. You didn't have any clue that she was in the House of Yahweh until that point.
Talking to her was like talking to anybody else. I mean, it was the same thing with anybody I met from the House of Yahweh, other than the food choices out in, that would indicate. You couldn't tell, If you
were you shocked?
No, not especially after the people I talked to that I knew that were more familiar, people who grew up in that area, and they would tell me things, and it was like, oh, okay.
Right.
It was like around here we got Mennonites and other people like that. It's just part of this background.
Okay, that was actually going to be my next question. At that point, how much did you know about the House of Yahweh? It was kind of just like that, like living by the Amish, kind of, maybe.
Yes, kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah. So I know that she left shortly after meeting you, and what did you do to help her get out of that? Not only the cult situation, but she was twofold, because she was also in an abusive marriage as well. So what did you do to help her get out of both of those situations?
Well, mainly was we moved in together. We moved into an apartment that one of my managers, she had just gotten married.
Okay.
And so she still had the lease on it, and she was moving in with her now husband, and she let us take that lease over. And we just moved in together. She left all her furniture and everything because she didn't need it, because she was moving in with him.
That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it was a blessing.
Yeah, exactly. Fell right into your lap. Um, so what do you think was the most difficult part for Ariel trying to reintegrate into society coming out of a cult situation?
Well, it was, I guess, the feeling of being separated from
Right.
everything, um, not having to go to Sabbath on Saturdays, and any other activities that she would do through the week. So it went from structure, intense structure, to
Right.
now she could decide what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it. And then that feeling of, the realization of, oh Lord, I'm not there no more.
Right. Do you
And
think that it was hard for her to be able to
yeah,
make those decisions because she hadn't had that amount of freedom?
yeah,
Yeah. So,
it
so
was
she
like,
felt kind of lost.
I mean, yeah, because come Friday night, her normal habit was TV off
Right.
and settle hunker down for the Sabbath all through Saturday, and then Saturday morning, Saturday evening, TV can come back on again,
Right.
and little things like that. It was just her. It was ingrained. It was habit, and then it
Right.
was realizing at some point, oh, we could watch TV Friday night,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
or go out to eat, or do whatever we wanted to do.
Right. So,
So
so having said that, what was the most difficult aspect of that situation for you?
for me,
For you.
not much. I mean, other than the fact that we were getting to know each other. We'd
Mm-hmm.
only been together for a couple of weeks by that point in time, so there was a lot of getting to know each other, just like you would in a normal in any relationship.
Right. Right.
And so there was a lot of her telling me stories of what life was like out there, and so it was a lot of learning just from my point of view, and I enjoyed the stories.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't all, they weren't all fire and brimstone and raining hellfire and stuff like that. There was a lot of things. And when she told about the feasts, and she would get into the people she would meet and the type of group fellowship that would be going on the feast grounds,
Yeah.
that appealed to me.
Yeah. Oh,
I like that.
absolutely.
Yeah, and the
Absolutely. We
friends she
actually
made.
are talking about doing an episode on the positive aspects of being in a cult or being in the House of Yahweh in particular for
Yeah,
us, because that's actually a lot of the lure. That's how they get people in. If it was all bad, nobody would join.
yeah,
That's just the facts. I mean, if especially if it was all bad and that's what they presented was
yeah,
all the negative,
yeah.
people would
Who
run.
would stay?
Yeah,
Or who would even
exactly.
join in the first place? Yeah.
So no,
So that
Mike finds my stories pretty interesting too. I'm sorry I cut you off. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, it's okay. And that was the, but she was giving me at first, and then of course there was the multiple marriage, there was the heavy tithing,
Right.
and the disciplinary stuff that would go on both from the actual elders as well as from her own husband and
Right.
other family members, and that's the part that would like. I didn't want. The hardest part for me was not showing the shock on my face.
Oh.
I had to hold a straight face, and just
Right.
that way she wouldn't feel like I'm looking at her like, oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had to sit there and really just try and keep a straight
Concentrate.
face, let her get it out, and then try to help her through it best I could.
Right. Well, that had to be difficult because I don't have a straight face. Like my emotions written all over my face, so that had to be difficult to not be like,
Yeah.
like when she would say things that were shocking, to not react because that's just a human instinct. What side effects of being in the cult do you think have been the most difficult on your marriage, and how have you worked through some of those issues?
First and foremost, I would say trust. In the
Mm,
beginning, it was trusting that uh, I wasn't going to be like her ex-husband.
right.
So, I mean, we've been together 21 years, and we tell everybody we've been married 21 years. But
Right.
in reality, we got married in 2011.
Right.
I
Right.
finally tricked her into marrying me in 2011 by saying to our pastors after a Bible study, we're not married. And they're
Uh,
like, what? And the next thing you know, they were planning the whole wedding. And she kind of got roped into it. But because she thought that I would change. somewhere deep down inside, she thought as soon as I had the ring on my finger and we'd signed the paper and done the ceremony, that all of a sudden I'm in charge now. And you do what I say, when I say, how I say it. And I kept telling her, I said, you've been with me by that point, it was like 12 years. So you've been with me 12 years. I don't think I could fake it that well for 12 years. The guy I am now is the guy I'm going to be tomorrow, even after we get married. So,
that's a long time to put on a show.
Yeah, it's a long time to sit there and try to fake it just so I can flip the switch on you the day after we get married.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, she was in a multiple marriage, so there was extra anxieties, I'm sure, for her based on that, as far as almost cheating aspect of faithfulness and that kind of trust for her too, because she actually not only had to experience that, but she had to accept that as part of her normal, part of her everyday.
And that's the next thing was being told all those 8-9 years that she was in that she had to submit.
Right.
That I would be the head and she had to be the submissive wife.
Right.
And so there was a lot of not submissiveness those first 12 years.
Because she was like, yeah, I already did that. It didn't work out so well for me.
Yeah, and I took it as, do what you're going to do, baby girl. Do what you're going to do,
Right. And that's being very understanding. You were giving her that space that she needed.
And I understood where she was coming from.
Right.
And, I mean, we would talk it out. Any issues we'd had, we'd sit there and figure out together. But I tried never to put my foot on her neck, and go, you do what I say. Because that just would not go over well.
No, I'm sure that potentially would have been the end.
Yeah.
She'd have been like,
or
bye.
It would just been a big fight, and I just was trying to avoid those, But and the crazy story is that our pastors who were supposed to do the wedding ceremony, it was a husband and wife team, they had a family member die that week that we were getting married, so they brought in another pastor to do the actual ceremony. And she came in, and her whole message while we were waiting for Ariel to come walking up the aisle was on how a wife should submit.
I forgot about that.
I'm standing there going, oh God.
I was there, and I'd actually kind of
She's not going to come out because you're sitting there telling her, submit. I said, my wife's already out the back door hauling up down the road. And luckily she didn't hear it, so she did actually show up and come out.
Well, I'm sure in hindsight, had she heard it, it's probably a good thing that she didn't hear it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, because it would have given her a lot more anxiety, I'm sure, to go through with it. Now, I also know that you've stepped up and you've helped Ariel raise her children from a pretty young age. And they were also coming out of that cult environment. What were some of the difficulties and the after effects that you dealt with as far as the children were concerned?
Well, in the beginning, it was mostly me learning how far I could go. I had to take my cues from Ariel, because I'm coming into this, and in the beginning, it was I'm dating her, we're living together, and her kids are there. And at the beginning, they were her kids,
right?
And so I had to learn, they're getting used to me,
right?
And I'm getting used to them. I'm trying to go from being a single man to all of a sudden trying to become some kind of father figure to these children, right. And so it was a matter of, well, I can't just go disciplining these children
until they trust you.
Well, even after that, I had a big issue with that. I had to take my cues from her. Now, by all means, I couldn't let them just run around the house and destroying everything. But it's not like I wanted to sit there and be spanking people all the time. I didn't. So her and I had to have some conversations. What's appropriate discipline from your point of view? Because I have to figure that out with you. And so she would sit there and say, we talk, redirect, and things like that. So I think I spanked the children probably twice in the whole time we've been together.
Right. So as far as did you see that, had you been around a lot of other kids, did they seem different than other kids because they were coming out of the cult environment? Were they more sheltered? Did they have some social issues because of that, or?
Well, luckily they were very young,
Right,
6 and 2.5,
right.
and
That helps.
so they just exploded as far as, once they realized that they wake up and on Saturday and watch cartoons. It was like, yay, here we
Yeah.
go. Once they realized they could pick what they wanted to eat off of any menu, and it was about whether they liked the way it tasted or not whether or not it was clean or unclean.
Right.
And mind you, they still didn't like pork.
Right.
So there was hardly any pork in our house for a long time, and there still isn't.
Right. Well, I mean, that's certainly had to be an adjustment for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't really eat a lot of pork at that time anyway, so I didn't really miss it. Bacon, I like bacon,
Right.
but pork roast and stuff like that, I like them, but not so much that I miss them.
Right. That's where I am. I don't like pork chops or pork roast either. So, I know that the children also had to, even after you were together for a number of years, they still were attending the feast because not only was their father there, but also their grandparents were still there. What were your feelings about that? And did you notice that? Did that have?
I've lost signal. I can't hear you.
Oh gosh, goodness.
I don't know if it's my side or yours.
I'm not sure either.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will start over. It said the internet connection is unstable. That might be on my end. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but you're
Okay.
kind of laggy on the screen, but that's okay.
Okay. I know that the children had to attend the feast because not only their father was there, but also their grandparents were there for a few years after you left.
Yes.
And what were your feelings about that? And did you notice any changes or effects that it would have on them when they would come back from being in that environment?
Well, I mean, I was a lot more trusting sending them out there because most of the time they would go to the grandparents.
Okay.
And I'd already, especially a couple of years into it, I'd already gotten to know her father pretty good.
Right.
And I loved him.
Right.
And
yeah, Bill was a good guy.
He got to like me. So
well, that's good.
So we had a pretty good working relationship, and so as long as they were with them, I was totally comfortable. Then that's where they spend 99% of their time.
Okay, well that had to have helped, I'm sure.
Yeah. Most of the time, the father was busy running around doing other stuff during feasts anyway, so it's not like he wanted children tagging along.
Right.
So we would just go over there and visit them at their grandparents.
Right.
To see them, and then boom, he'd go back doing his stuff. So,
right, that makes sense.
If they weren't with the grandparents, and if they were with him, he'd drop them off at one of the other wives anyway.
Right.
So, it might as well just stay with grandma and grandpa.
Right, exactly, because that was a good family connection for them and somebody that you guys trusted.
Yes.
So, and did you notice any differences in the kids when they would come back from being in the feast? Did they?
Oh yeah, you'd send them one way, and then they'd come back, and it would take about a week or two for them to come back to the way they were, because they would come back eating, speaking, acting different.
More cult-like, based on the cult teachings,
yes.
meaning.
Their language would change, their behaviors would change, everything. Their eating habits would change. Right. It would take a little bit before they looked at you like, "Can I eat this?"
Right.
And you're like, "Yeah, I can eat whatever we got,
right.
as long as you like it,
Having been in a long-term relationship with someone that was in a cult, has that changed your religious or spiritual beliefs based on what you've learned from Ariel? And if so, how has that changed your religious or spiritual beliefs?
Well, I've learned a lot from her, I'll be honest with you. I had my own Bible even before I met her, and I was reading that. But as a layperson, just flipping through reading things, unless you go to church and are taught, it's not the same. It's just you're reading words in a book, trying to figure it out for yourself.
Right.
So with her, I was able to sit there and learn that there's more to it than just reading passages and then going, "Ooh, that makes me feel good."
Right.
So avoided the Old Testament before I met her, scared of it.
Yeah.
I would only read the New Testament. And so with her help, I was able to go back and look at the Old Testament in a whole different light.
Right.
And see how it affects the New Testament and how that affects me. So since then, I mean, I can't remember what year we actually started. I want to say probably 2009 when we got back into church. And we got back into church because of the kids.
Right.
They were going to after-school programs at one of the local churches, and then we decided to go. And then things snowballed. We got baptized, and we've been going to church. Yeah.
So then would you say that you become a more spiritual person based on your relationship with her?
Yeah. Because, I mean, she's got a lot of knowledge.
Right.
I know you sit there and think, well, do you really want to listen to somebody who came out of a cult? But like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of truth in what they're teaching, and that's the hook.
Right.
They give you enough of that, and then they twist just a few key points. And
absolutely.
That's where it goes off the rails. And so, I mean, I could take the Bible today, go out and stand on a corner and start recruiting for my own cult, and then twist it. And just whether
did you
or not
receive their playbook in the mail?
No, I'm just saying if I had enough, charisma to where I could sell it,
right,
people would buy.
Yeah.
But as long as they're reading their own Bible, going, wow, it does say that.
Right.
And then, so that was the thing, was there was a lot of truth, and then going back and reading through it with her and going, okay, I can see where he twisted that.
Right. Exactly.
And
well, and the doctrine changed slowly throughout the years. It started out one way, and then it would slowly change into something else.
Yeah. It incrementally conditioned the whole group.
Yep, exactly.
So they could do what they wanted.
Yep. Do you have any advice for somebody that would be in a similar situation, that is either married to or in a relationship that is coming out of a cult? What would be your advice to someone in that situation?
Now, them coming out, or from my point of view,
if they're in a relationship with somebody that came out.
Yeah, well, there'll be a lot of patience. Biggest thing would be empathy.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't understand some of the things that she was saying, what that would happen. My initial reaction, and she hates it when people say this to her, especially when she shares a story of what was going on.
Right.
And because I know the first question you're going to ask is, why did I stay? Yep. And after hearing her story and how it broke down and how everything was done, I realized that she didn't realize she had a choice. It was scary to sit there, and she took a leap of faith just jumping out and coming with me.
Right.
I was a relative unknown, so I could have been worse than what she was leaving.
Oh, absolutely. She didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's was just a tough thing. So you got to be I had to be really empathetic towards her and sit there and go, okay, she's acting this way. If she was acting out in a certain way, I had to think from her point of view. She doesn't trust me. It's probably because something that was done to her.
Exactly.
So let me try to explain myself, and then through my actions prove that I'm not acting that way that you think I am.
Right, exactly. So there was a lot of misinterpretations that you had to deal with. So I think that
and a lot of communicating. We had to talk it out a lot, and she'd have to sit there and say, "This is why I thought this."
Right.
Okay, I can understand that. But if I was a person who was unwilling to listen to that, it would implode. It would explode. It would just.
Oh, absolutely, and that takes an amount of patience just right there, especially if it's happening fairly consistently, which I'm sure in the beginning it was happening a lot more consistently.
Yeah.
So
and that would be in for anybody in any relationship.
Absolutely.
You're not listening to your partner, then why be with them?
Exactly.
Go find somebody else if you don't want to listen to what they have to say.
Very, very good point, because relationships are about communication and compromise. If you don't have that, whether somebody has been in a cult or not, you're going to have issues.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you probably didn't envision yourself being married to somebody who was an ex-cult member. Now, having said that, what are some of the unexpected adjustments that you did have to make in your day-to-day life, and how have you coped with some of those adjustments?
Um, well, I'd have to say these the actions I take. Um, I've never been a very aggressive person,
Right,
and I've never been aggressive towards women.
right,
Uh, but I had to be extremely gentle with
right,
her because, even if I lost my temper, and you got to understand that, and I don't even know if I should share this, but if we got into a fight and I could start feeling my blood boil, my
right,
initial reaction, just in general, is to leave the fight
right.
because I do not want to get
Angry, yeah,
physically aggressive.
yeah,
So get out of the house, calm down, and then come back and then have the discussion.
right,
Um, her initial reaction was poke the bear,
right,
and that was something that had happened in her previous thing, and
right,
I come to find out why later. She explained it to me because poke the bear, he leaves the house, and then he goes to one of the other ones and leaves her alone. you know,
right.
so
Okay,
I was like wondering why she's being so, and it was her way of, I guess, of pushing me out the door to say, is he going to come back, or is he
right.
going to go and just
Yeah,
disappear?
like a test almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
And
that
I
was
think
one
we
of the
all
things
do that
I had
early
to
on.
figure out. I had to figure out that, okay, I can't get so mad that I have to leave. I've got to calm myself down, and we have to talk this out here and now,
Mm,
because that's part of the MO, is to poke me to get me to leave.
right.
And so I had to, and then we had to talk that out, and then both of us had to change on that aspect.
And did that kind of trigger some of her, like if you did leave, like when you left in the beginning, did that
Yeah,
trigger some of
he's
her
off to another
abandonment
woman.
issues? What's that?
In her mind, he's off to another woman.
Right. So that's what I was
So,
going to say. Did that trigger
yeah.
some of her abandonment issues and obviously
Yes,
trust issues? Yeah.
are you out there looking for another one? I'm like, I can't handle the one I have. I can't take on more than one, you know.
That's a
So
fair statement.
there's I don't have the energy or the time. Yeah. No, thank you.
So, do you have any special message that you'd like to say to Ariel?
21 years. I'm looking forward to another 21.
Well, that's
Uh,
sweet.
it has been the craziest ride, and we've talked about it. Yeah, the question: if I could go back in time, would I change anything? I wouldn't change a thing. Uh, it all worked out the way it was supposed to, and we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't go through the things we went through over the last 21 years. So I love her today more than I loved her 21 years ago.
That's awesome. That's sweet. That's sweet. Well, I thank you so much for talking with me today, Philip. And I did want to say, too, that I wanted to tell you, I wanted to say thank you for being there for her when she needed someone, because I personally don't think she could have left without you. I think at that point she had been so emotionally and mentally torn down that I don't think she had the inner strength in herself to leave on her own. And I appreciate, as her friend, that you were there for her and held her up when she until she could stand on her own 2 feet again, because I know that, like, when I went to visit her one time when she was still in and I had left, um I personally wanted to just put her in my car and take her out. I mean, I knew that it was not a good environment. I knew she was in a bad place, but I I couldn't do that. And because I'd been in that environment and in that situation, I also knew that if I said the wrong things to her,
Yeah.
I could close that door so quick, and I didn't want to close the door. So as much as I wanted to say to her, if you want to leave, just get in my car, let's go, I was scared to say that because I thought she may never talk to me again if I say that.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah, because I thought that could be the totally wrong thing to say, and then I'll lose all contact with her. And I didn't want to lose that contact. So, so you were able to come in a different way and a different aspect and obviously a different relationship, and you were able to rescue her in a way that I felt like as a friend I wasn't able to do that for her. So
Well, I
I
honestly
appreciate
don't
that.
think I did anything special as far as above and beyond. I just think that the Lord put me in the right place at the right time, because a few months before I met her, I prayed for a woman just like her,
Wow.
and then there she was. So she was an answer to my prayers.
Well, you were blessings for each other then. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. That's certainly a unique situation to have, especially in her situation, because it would seem like you were the one rescuing her, but maybe you both kind of rescued each other.
I agree.
Well, thank you again for speaking with me tonight. And in closing, thank you everyone for watching. We so appreciate all of your support. And if you enjoy our broadcast, please again like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like and follow us on Facebook. And this has been another episode of Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. We're sending out lots of love and positivity to everyone tonight. Good night, Philip. Thanks again.
Thank you.